Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So as Andy mentioned, yeah, I'm going to be kind of walking through this process with the bullet points that we had, creating a job, creating a bid item, and kind of going through it. I will be pausing, so if you guys have any of those questions, make sure to put them into the Q&A, and we'll kind of get those handled as they come in. All right. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is creating a job today. So we are going to hit this second icon right here to the Setup Jobs. That's going to open up your job window. Now, I don't have any jobs in here, but most of you guys are going to have a bunch. So you can just hit the plus button right here. And this is going to bring up the Insert Job Wizard. So for the job number, I'm just going to do 0001. You can do alphanumeric. It can be A, B, C, D, anything that you want. Bid date, if you don't want to hand type in anything, you can just hit this magnification glass here. And I'm going to just say that it bids today. Okay. And I'm going to say that the bid time that I need to turn it in is 5 p.m. And then I'll just call this webinar job. Now, there's a bunch of other information that you can fill out, companies and offices. If you have multiple, you can do job statuses. You can put in a bid location, project number, job type, all those sorts of things. But really, all that you need are the first 4 things with the asterisks, and then you can hit OK, and that creates your job. All right, so now we're going to have to activate the job. Double click. And activate. And now you can see down at the bottom, this is going to show which job that we actually have active. So job 0001, and that's going to be the webinar job. Well, we don't need that screen anymore, and we can just go to the 4th icon, which is going to be the bid items window. All right, so this is our bid items window. What we're going to do is we're going to create 2 bid items, one with some detail and then one without, so that we can show you some parts of the program later that search for zeros. All right, we're going to do bid item 01, and we're just going to call this bid item 1. And we can say the quantity is whatever you want it to be, but I'll just say 1 lump sum. And then we'll create a secondary bid item called bid item 2. And that can be 1 lump sum as well. All right, well, let's double click into this and start adding some items to it. So we're going to double click, and then you have the option for sublevel and detail. Sublevel just takes you one level further underneath bid item number 1 if you wanted to delineate, any further descriptions. But I'm just going to use detail here so that we can actually get to where we're going to be bidding with our detail items. All right, so our main 3 things that we're going to be focusing on today is going to be labor. So that's the hard hat, material, that's the boxes on a shelf, and then equipment, which is going to be, the equipment icon. All right, so the first thing that I'll drag in here is a piece of labor. So we're going to click the hard hat, and we're going to find whichever labor guy that we need. Maybe we need 1 supervisor, and then it can ask which rate that we want. Maybe it's private, maybe it's prevailing, but for right now, let's just say private. Okay, and then maybe we need 1 labor guy. Say private as well, and then 1 operator. We can say private as well. Okay, so then we just say how long we want these people to be on the job. We'll just say 1 day each. So we're just hand clicking down in here and then hitting 1 day. And you're good to go. That's adding some cost to your bid item for labor. All right. Then the next thing that we're going to be adding is going to be equipment. So we can click the equipment icon. All right. And then let's say that I want to add an excavator in here. So I open up the excavator group, and then I click and drag the excavator in here. And this gives us our 320. And we say that we want that for 1 day as well. That could be half a day, it could be 2 days, whatever you decide. It could also be 2 or more of these specifically. But for right now, we're just going to make it super simple. Bring in an excavator, maybe bring in a dozer, and then say that we want it on the job for 1 day. And then lastly, what we're going to be changing is going to be some material. So we have our labor, we have our equipment, and now we're going to apply some material to this bid item. and whatever that may be. So we can go to aggregate, maybe we can go to rock, and maybe do like a 3/4 inch crush rock here. So I don't have any cost in here yet, but what we can do is actually change it on the fly. So if I know that I'm going to need 500 tons of this 3/4 inch crush rock, I can type in 500 for the quantity and then hit enter on my keyboard, and then it's going to ask me what my unit cost is. So if I don't have a unit cost already associated with this piece of material, I have two options. I can either change it inside the job on the fly. So in here, I can say it's $3.52 per ton and hit enter. And that allows me to change it on the fly in the job. I can hit OK here. Or what you can do is actually change it inside your tables and then update it through your job, which I'll be showing you a little bit later. Okay, so that's just one way to sort of change your material is just on the fly. You can change it if it happens to be $10. You can change it to 10, hit enter, and then as long as you don't hit this update the table cost, it will not actually update inside your tables over here. But you can decide whether you want to update only this record. You can update it with a specific vendor, or you can update, this record and the vendor throughout the active job. But most of the time, it's applicable to just hit this record only. All right, so obviously changing that does change your total cost, but notice you can't actually do that with labor or with equipment. You can't actually change any of their rates on the fly. So if you decide that this needs to be prevailing wage rather than private rates for your labor guys, or if this needs to be rental rather than owned, or whatever various scenarios that you come up with, I'll walk you through how to change those and how to update the job. So let's notice right now our labor total is $920, and then our equipment total is $781 with 68 cents. So if we were going to change some equipment rates from one to another, we would need to kind of check two areas. We need to firstly check our tables to make sure that the rates are accurate and what they need to be. And then we will need to go through and make sure that it's updated through our job. So let's take a look at how to do that. So we're going to go to tables, and then go to equipment. All right, and then we're going to look for the same dozer, so D3K. You can double click in here and then see that we already have different rates associated. Right now, we see that our default is going to be the monthly rate, and that's what's currently in our bid. But maybe we want to change it and decide that we're going to actually do the daily rate for that. Okay, so this is how we would do that. What we can do is go to your job up here at the top, go to job information and settings, and then go to job default equipment areas. And then right in here is where you can change on the job to job basis what you actually want your default to be. So I'll show you guys some tricks with that, but for now, we're just going to change it from the month to the day. So we're going to double click here, make that a yes, change that to no, and then we can close this. And what's going to happen is it's going to say, are you sure that you want to change it to the rental per day? It's going to also update all of the existing bid items with this new setting, or do we want to keep it the same as it was before? So you have the option, if you already bid it with the month, you could keep it on the month rating, or you can change them all to your day rate. So what we want to do is we want to push all of our equipment to that day rate. So we're going to hit update all. And that's now, you can see in this area over here, changed it from the month to the day. So now our equipment went from 700 and some change to $1,800. So that's going to be how you can change those equipment rates. And then labor works the exact same way. So we're going to go back to our tables really quick and just kind of check through here. We can go to labor, and then double click because we have one of each, I believe. Yep, one of each. All right, so we're going to double click in here and just check and see what different options we have. So we have the private rate versus a prevailing wage rate, and the cost difference is quite a bit. So the way that we do that, and we wanted to change it from private to prevailing, notice this is private over here. We just go to the same areas. So we go job, job information and settings, job default labor areas. Now notice this one actually had two of them, both of them selected. That's why when I was bringing them in, it asked me which one that I wanted. You could actually have both of them selected as your defaults, and then it will ask which rate that you want. You can do that with equipment as well. So if you bring in a piece of equipment that is rented for a month rather than rented for a day, you can choose that one in your defaults, or you can just have one as your default. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unclick this private rate because I want all of them to change to prevailing. So we double click, change that to nothing, and then we hit the X up here. All right, and this is the same thing. Your default labor area has been changed to prevailing. Would you like to update or keep them as is? So I want to update them all. Okay, so notice all these PRs should be changing to PREV over there in the labor area section. Okay, we go update all, and that's going to push all of this information here. Now notice something that happened was that your supervisor did not change. It stayed the private rate, most likely because we do not have a prevailing wage rate for the supervisor. So it will not change if you do not have a rate for it. It will stay the same. Okay, so just that's food for thought. And then the last little bit that I wanted to show you on this specifically would be to, how to sort of update your material in the tables and then get that information to be pushed through to the job if you did not want to update it, on the fly. So the way that you would do that is you could go to your tables, and you could actually do this for any of your table items. You could do it for material, you could do it for labor, equipment, subs, anything like that. But we're going to go to materials, and then we can go down to our rock here. Oh, scrolled a little too far. Here we go. So we're going to take a look at our 3/4 inch crush rock, this bad boy right here. Double click in here. So notice there actually isn't a vendor associated with it yet, which is why there was 0 cost. But we can add a vendor. Let's call this plug vendor, and I'll say it's $15 a ton. It'll show us when the last cost change was made, and it'll show whether it's taxable or not. So you can say yes, no, if it's not a taxable item. But then if I close this, nothing happens in my bid, right? Nothing changes. We haven't told it to update or anything like that. But what we want to do is you can actually go to your utilities up here and go to refresh all detail costs from tables. And this brings up a wizard that will allow you to update all of your different table types, whether it be other, trucking, subs, equipment, labor, workers' comp, material, any of these guys. You can update it simultaneously. So if you decide that you want to go through and change your labor rate from, $526 a day to $350 a day, you can click labor and then hit update cost. And that's going to push all of the information from your tables to this specific job. You can hit mark all, unmark, whatever you want to do. Right now, all that we really want to work on is updating the material because we want this 3/4 inch crush rock to go from 10 to 15. All right, so we're just going to update the material and then hit update cost. Hit yes. And then if we refresh this page, it should change this. Oh, there you go. Bring it back in. There you go. 500 tons to 15. It should have been there. Okay, hit OK with that, and that's going to bring you to where you need to go. All right, you can just delete this guy out if you want to. And then another thing that I wanted to cover is actually updating your fuel costs inside the bid, because that is pretty popular. Is if you're working in a different area, that you can actually change the fuel from, I'm in Northern California, but if I go to Southern California, the fuel is going to be significantly more expensive. So what we could do is make a change in that, and it will change inside our job as well. So kind of to walk that out really quick, we can just exit the job and then kind of walk it through with our tables really quick to show you how it works. So go to our equipment, and I'll just take a look at that same dozer that we looked at before. So it was the D3K. Double click. So right now, everything is set to $6 a gallon. That's what we have our diesel set to, and it says that we're using 1.71 gallons of diesel per hour. It does the calculation, so 1026 is what it multiplies out to be. So you can actually come in here and change this independently to $10 if you wanted to. Inside your tables, you can actually just hand click in there and change that. But most of the time, you want to change it across the board, not just for one specific dozer. So I'm going to leave that as 6 for now. If we wanted to change it across the board, what we could do is go up to our defaults, go to our equipment defaults, go to fuel/oil default costs per area, and then open this wizard up. So now what this is going to do is going to have a couple different sections. We have one per rate that we have. So these are all of our different areas. We have a bid rate, we have a weekly rental rate, we have a daily rental rate, and then we have a monthly rental rate. So if we just wanted to change all of the information inside this daily, let's say that we wanted to change this to $10, something drastic, right? You can double click, change it to 10, hit OK. And then you need one more step to actually get this to go to your tables. We're going to have to go up to actions up at the top, and then hit update equipment table fuel/oil costs. All right. So anything that's going to be associated with the rental per day and the diesel is the only thing that I changed, should change to $10 a gallon inside our tables. So if we go to update, and you could change it for all areas if you want to. I didn't make any changes anywhere else, but I'm going to just say that I want to change it all. You can actually update it specifically for diesel and only with day. You can update it, for only day in general, or you can update for all of them. All right. So I'm going to just update for all of them. Hit OK here. And that's going to push all of the information to our tables. So now I refreshed, and you can see that that changed from $6 to the $10 that I changed it to before. But that still doesn't actually change it in your job yet. So what you would need to do is you have two options here. You can either go inside your equipment, and it works the same way for anything, whether it be labor, material. You can always go up to actions and do update equipment rates throughout active job. You can do it here. And then you can update it specifically for the equipment, or you can update it for all. So I can just say, I'll update it for all, since that was the only piece of equipment in there. And then now if we go back to our bid items, there will be a different rate for this D3K. Okay, and you could also do the same thing that we did earlier, is you could go to utilities, you could go to refresh all detail costs from tables, and then instead of material, you could go equipment. And then that would push the cost as well to your job. All right. Any questions on that so far?
Yeah, it's a good point. We'll just kind of pause here for a minute and just give, if anybody has any questions, we'll give you a minute. Just we'll do a minute pause here if you want to type them into the Q&A section. And then, like I said, we'll just pause for a minute. If we don't see anything come through, then we'll continue on, and we'll have one more Q&A at the end as well. But we'll just give a minute here if anybody wants to type in any questions on what they've seen so far, and then we'll resume. Okay, Jonathan, I think we're good. Let's continue on. And then again, we'll have a time at the sessions as well. And of course, all you guys know how to get in touch with us with any questions you guys have on the software. So, yep, we can continue on, Jonathan. Thank you.
All right. Well, that covered most of the primary topics that we were planning on working on today in our webinar. The last few things that I wanted to show you guys is how to search your job for zeros, what that means and how you look at it, and then to show you guys the audit trail. So firstly, what I'll do is I'm going to change this crush rock to 0 here. I want it to have that blue line. If you ever see this line in your software, this, and it could be different colors. You can actually change the color in your preferences. But if you ever see that sort of, light blue color, that means that you have no cost associated with it. It could be your quantity. It could be the days. Like if I change the supervisor, even though it has a quantity, to 0, now it will no longer have it. Transversely, if I said I wanted him here for 1 day and I said 0 quantity, obviously it's going to show that. So I'm going to leave these two blank right now because I want to make the system tell me that I don't have any cost in here. So how we're going to do that is, let's say that we're just going to go to our summary sheet. We're moving forward with our bid. We didn't double check it, and we're adding whatever we want to. Maybe we're adding like 10% in our labor and 10% in equipment, or whatever that looks like, to get you guys where you needed to go. And you think to yourself, man, I need to recheck my job just to make sure that there's not any zeros in it before we turn it in to the boss. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to utilities, and then you can go to check job for 0 totals. Okay. So what that's going to do is that's going to run a utility. That's going to run a utility. So when I click this button, so that's utilities up at the top, and then check job for 0 totals, there's two different options here. There's one that's overarching bid item. Notice when we were bidding earlier, I created bid item number 2 and I left it 0. So you can see that there's a 0 cost associated with bid item number 2. You can actually double click in here, and it'll take you directly to bid item number 2. And then you can decide, oh yeah, I forgot. I needed to put a labor guy in there. Maybe I throw the supervisor in here and I leave him in there for 1 day. Oh yeah, it needs to be private. So maybe I'll just do operator. He's in there for 1 day because I don't have a prevailing wage rate for my supervisor. Okay, so we're going to leave this operator in here and just give it some meat on the bones. And then if we run the utility again, it's probably underneath. Here it is. All right, so let's refresh it. Now there's nothing here, but that does not mean that there actually is zeros in the job. Now we need to look at our detail items, because before, remember, I left the supervisor with 0 cost and I left the 3/4 inch crush rock with 0 cost. So if we were to click detail items over here, it will actually show that in bid item number 1, we have a labor type of supervisor with quantities of 0 with 0 cost. And then we have bid item number 1, a material 3/4 inch crush rock with a quantity of 0 as well. So this tells you that there are different detail items that actually have 0 cost in them. So if you're like, oh wow, I really need to put some information in my 3/4 inch crush rock, you can just double click it and it's going to take you directly to where this information is. And then you could put your 500 back there and then have it adjust. Same thing with the supervisor. You could put 1 there, close that, and it automatically refreshes. Now you have no zeros in your details, no zeros in your items. Okay, that's just a quick way to search your job for zeros. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you guys before we got to our end of webinar Q&A session is going to be the audit trail. So how you set that up, it's going to be in your securities, but we're going to go firstly to our defaults and then go down to preferences. Okay, so defaults, preferences. And then down here at the bottom, I have checked that I want to start an audit trail anytime that a new job is created. And what that's going to do is allow you to have kind of structure over every change that happens inside the system, who done it, and kind of what it was changed to. Okay, so it's already started. So if we go to securities and we go to our audit trail, and then you can actually look at different jobs and you can look at the totals and the times and you can look at when you wanted to specifically start it. But I'm just going to hit OK here. You can view activity. And this is going to show you all of the different changes, who made them, when it was made, what time it was made, the fields that I made them to. So I changed quantities from zeros to one or from 0 to 500. And it kind of just goes in order. So from 10:08, I changed maybe the hours from 0 to 8. Same thing. It shows which bit item it was, what the field name was, what job it was in, and what changes that were made. Okay, you can also sort, specifically by user. You can look at date and time. You can look at specific bit items and things like that. But it gives you kind of a rundown on what happened. I deleted a bit item out, and that's where this comes in. It just shows you all of the different things that were changed, whether it be labor detail, if it was cost adjusted, or equipment detail, and the cost was adjusted when we were doing our updates and things like that. So it gives you a full breakdown of the activity that happened on the job. Okay. And then with that, I think I will turn it back over to Andy and we can start our Q&A portion of the webinar.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. So we did get a couple questions that kind of floated in here. So if anybody else in the group has any others, you can go ahead and type those into Q&A, but we'll go ahead and answer a couple that we did come in. And if we don't see any others come in, then we will look to conclude our webinar here. The first one we had, Jonathan, was, and I think I'll steer you on this, if you could bring up the navigation tree and talk a little bit about the importance of the escape button and getting back screens and how it even works in the navigation tree when you're buried down there. The question was, how do we go back a screen? But I think let's expand that out a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So we went in here and I'm going to delete this out here for a second. And then if you wanted to get back a screen, just back one level, no matter pretty much where you're at, let's say you're looking at labor, you're looking at, equipment or anything, and you don't necessarily have your navigational tree open over here, the bit item tree, you can just hit escape on your keyboard one time, and that's going to take you up one level. No matter pretty much where you're at, it will take you up one level. But let's say that we double click in here and then we make a sub level underneath bit item number 2, and I can call this, sub level 1 or so, and then do one lump sum. You can double click it again, and now you're inside not only bit item number 2, but you're also inside sub level number 1. And then if you, for whatever reason, wanted to add an operator to that, quantity of 1 day, you have two different options. You can hit escape, and what that's going to do is that's going to push you from sub level 1 to bit item number 2. But let's say that you wanted to actually go to the very top of the bid without having to hit escape 2 times. You could actually just hit this icon right here, which is going to be your view bid item tree. And then you can left click the name of the job, and that's going to take you to the very top portion of the job. So you'll be able to see bid item number 1 and bid item number 2 without having to navigate through all the different sub levels. And transversely, if you wanted to do the exact same thing, but you don't mind hitting the escape key, I'm in that sub level again. I can hit escape one time, and that takes me to the sub level. And I hit escape again, and that'll take me to the top of the webinar job.
Perfect. Thanks, Jonathan. Our next question, I might need a little more clarification on it. So if the person that asked this, if we don't get it right, let me know. But I asked about the ability to push out revised production rates throughout the bid. I'm thinking that's more in mass, Jonathan, like mass updating like a rate or something for equipment. But wanted you to address that. I believe in mass, the production rates are meant to stay individually at the crew and things like that. But if there is any sort of mass updating of the production rates.
Yeah, I mean, currently there's no necessarily way to mass push the production rate itself. That's going to be assigned to the bid item. Yeah, inside this bid item. So let's say theoretically this was 1,000 lineal foot or something, right? So I'm not going to adjust anything. I'm going to say it's 1,000 lineal foot, and it's going to say there's no conversion factor between lump sum and lineal foot, of course. The way that that's going to work is you would have to come in independently and say, okay, if this had no production rate at all, which I mean could theoretically be the case, maybe we can get 250 lineal foot done per day, and that's going to automatically adjust and say how much, how many days that you're going to need. Now, these guys have been locked in at 1 because I chose not to change that, on the top end, but you can go through here and then set this to, let's say, 0. And that should zero everything out. And then you could go back and say 250. And that's going to push in that 4 days to this crew specifically. Now, there's no way to be able to do that on multiple bid items simultaneously. But if you're meaning to massively update all of your equipment items, let's say that you got, a new equipment rental rate sheet or something in there, and you already have those rates input into your tables, you could just go to utilities and then go to refresh all detail costs from tables, and then just click equipment, and then make sure that you have the correct area, and then hit update cost, and that's going to push all of your equipment rates that you have in your tables to this specific job.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. We haven't had any other questions coming in, so everyone here at SharpeSoft, we just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time and joining us here today. As I mentioned, we will get everyone out that registered for this webinar a copy of this recording so you can share it with your teams there at the offices. And as I mentioned before, please keep your eyes open for an email coming out from our team next week, just with some feedback. We want to make this these webinars the best that we can for you guys, our customers. So please give us input on what type of topics, information you would like to see covered in these. And then let us know how we did on this one. We certainly value any feedback that you guys have and just want to provide the best value for you guys and make the most of your time. So thank you everyone again for joining us today. And we look forward to continuing to serve you guys with excellence. So thank you, and everyone have a wonderful day.